DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage. In this episode, I'm joined by Martyna, who is head of e-commerce at Indu Beauty. It's a skincare brand made purely for teens, and it's a reminder that the next generation of customers won't necessarily be reached in the exact same way as the last, and brands really need to evolve if they want to stay at the forefront of their audience. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Martyna. Thank you so much for joining me today. Would you mind introducing yourself and a little bit about what you do and Indu as well, the company that you work for?
Sure. So Martyna Lloyd, I'm head of e-commerce at Indu Beauty. I've been with Indu now for over 2 years and in e-com for over 10 years. My background has actually been more towards luxury, so Harrods, Jimmy Choo. But I always wanted experience in startup, and I always wanted that, experience in building something from the ground up and really being a part of building a brand and a story and something that you can leave your mark on. So when I joined Indu, it was a really exciting time. Obviously, we already had a lot of investment into the brand, strong relationship with Sephora. So it was a really great move for me. In terms of the brand itself, so we are a teen skincare brand, British brand. We've been operating for 3 years now. We are exclusive to Sephora. Most of our products are made in either UK, Switzerland, or EU, so we're really making sure that the quality of the product is there, the ingredients are right for the teen skin, and everything we do is made not only for teens, but actually with them. Mm-hmm. We have a committee of teens that essentially help us with everything that we do, whether it's a marketing campaign, whether it's a new product launch. Even with our rebrand that we did last year, they had like a lot of voice and a lot of kind of input into everything we do, because we want to make sure that it's right for them. And in the end of the day, no millennial or anyone older than essentially the Gen Z that we're targeting can really tell you what's cool for them unless you ask them directly. So yeah, it's a really exciting brand. I think we're doing something that will really make a difference for teens, especially in kind of current market when, it's just so easy to be misinformed, so easy to find like wrong information. So yeah, really excited to be here.
That's so funny that you said like, especially millennials. Like I love going through TikTok and seeing those like trends where they're like, oh, why are millennials still wearing this? Oh,
I know.
Why do they think they can wear skinny jeans? Like, oh, I read recently you can't wear like socks over your leggings anymore. Like apparently that's not cool.
That must be new.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I've just got onto that trend. Like, and I love wearing that. Like,
I think you should just keep going. I mean, my favorite one is whenever I see, it's a millennial when they would not book anything big on their phones. Like I would never book my flight on my phone. I would never like make a big purchase on my phone, and I think that always gives me away.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm exactly the same. But I think that's amazing that there's like that the brand is speaking to the teens, they're speaking to the customer, they're getting like, they must like that they've got someone actually talking to them as well and taking them seriously.
I think that's the thing, there's so many skincare brands these days that they're all about community. And yes, some of them definitely like truly are. But for some of them, communities like, oh, we'll just send some products to, 300 people that like our brand. I think for us, it was always a pillar of the brand. And it was always really important that everything we do has teens in mind. And, it's even about the kind of the charity or the partnerships that we do, whether it's Teens Unite or whether it's Brit School partnership or whether we, it's our athlete sponsorship program where we support teen athletes. It's everything we do is for them. And I think especially when it comes to like product itself, like, yes, of course, we're a company, we are selling a product, we obviously want to make money, but it needs to be for the right reason. And, if we really wanted to, we could now be selling a bunch of products that we know teens don't really need. But actually what we do is, our range is tiny. The kind of the idea behind the brand is the teens only need 3 steps. Anything kind of beyond that is nice to have, but not really necessary.
Yeah.
We also always say it's really 13 plus. Anyone kind of, again, below that age, they really don't need anything.
No,
I mean,
they've
their
got
skin is
perfect skin. You don't need to put anything on it.
Maybe put SPF on them, if they're in the sun. But other than that, I think it's that 13 plus age that they really need to clean their face, moisturize it, and put SPF on every day. And that really is it.
And what do you think makes the teen skincare category so fundamentally different from traditional beauty?
I think it's again, it's just keeping it safe and simple.
Yeah.
I think when you're a traditional skincare brand, like one of the pillars of your strategy will always be expanding your range and going into something new and trying different, ingredients, or like following the trends as well. I mean, and as an example, like every single brand now has a vitamin C serum because obviously it had such a boom a couple of years ago. For us, that's just not something that we can do, and that's not something that we want to do. For us, it's all about those 3 steps. And really, if we want to build on that and we want to extend our range a little bit, it will be because either teams are asking us for something specific, or it will be that we feel like there's a gap in our range. But any product really would be an addition, like the key kind of elements of the range are already there. So we've got the cleansers, we've got the moisturizers, we've got the SPF. We also have tonics and masks. But like I said, it's for teens that, especially if teens are having specific skin issue, either blemishes or dryness. That would probably be the main.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, keeping it simple and safe. Again, like you need to be so careful about the ingredients that are in the product as well. And not that any other skincare brand doesn't have to be careful, but that teen skin is so delicate. And, for the product not to be also like, I guess, found well for their particular teen skin type can be a bit tricky because you don't want to damage their skin anyway. You have to be really gentle.
And how do you balance growth with that then? Because I imagine that not that the ceiling could be hit with your demographic, because obviously we're constantly having new teens coming into the market, but more so from like a product perspective, like it's not as easy for you to add on new products to build that range out. So are you relying on the fact that once they join, they stick, they keep coming back for the same products? Like the chance of like upselling and cross-selling is slightly lower, I imagine.
Yes, definitely. I think for us that this is why retention is so important to us. Our products are also refillable, so our cleansers and moisturizers are refillable. So again, we're trying to protect the planet. You don't have to buy a product with a new pump, which is very difficult to recycle or sometimes impossible every time. Our recyclable bottles are made from recyclable plastic, and it just reduces the waste that we create on this planet. As we all know, we have to
massively
keep doing that. So yes, I think for us it's all about kind of getting the teens into the right routine as early as we can, probably from that 13 kind of years old, and then we know there is a ceiling in terms of by the time they get to 18, 19, they will want to, and rightly so, they will want to explore other products. They'll be going into like adulthood. They can probably start trying some new, more, I guess, active ingredients. But for us, the key thing is if they can stick to their routine and like look after the skin properly, especially if they have issues like blemishes where we can really help them. Like our products will not treat acne, and we would never claim that that's the case. But if you're struggling with oiliness, which most teens do, like our products will help with that definitely. So it's all about kind of setting, I guess, this proper routine, proper habits as well, really important. And yes, if you want to add like a little mask or tonic to it, 100%. But for us, it's more about them coming back and kind of sticking to it regularly.
And talking about like marketing, so obviously you mentioned that you've got like your community of like teens that you kind of lean on, but what about building trust with parents? And you kind of, your target demographic is someone different to who you're marketing to in a way, isn't it?
Yes, and it's been really tricky. I know we're learning about it every day and every month. There's a change in what we do because of that. So when we first launched the brand, the whole idea was like, we are for teens with teens. Like all of our marketing, like performance-wise and brand marketing was all about teens. And then probably by late 24, we realized that actually our DTC customer is really a parent. And even when we spoke to people in store, it was really interesting how easy it was to convert parents, because for them it was a really simple solution. They just heard, oh, it's right, it's safe for teens, it's suitable for teens. They were like, no brainer, like let's just buy this product. So we could almost make our life easier in that respect, because we know teens, it's a lot more difficult to convert teens. There's a lot of different elements that need to happen. There needs to be hype, there needs to be, they need to see other friends using it. They need to see it on TikTok. They need to see it on Instagram. When with parents, we found it was a lot easier. So we started targeting them mainly through, I would say, combination of, like the right targeted ads, email as well has been doing really well for us in that respect. And education anyway was always very important to us. So when it came to trust, we do have a blog with over 100 articles, all sorts of things that you can think about on skincare. And again, this blog is really for us to kind of share a bite-sized pieces of information on, all sorts of different skin types, how to build your routine. Because there are some adults that don't know, what is the right order of products.
Yeah.
Should I use SPF every day? Why do I have to wear SPF when it's cloudy? It's all those kind of basic skincare lessons that you have to teach the parents as well as teens. Another big trust element for us was definitely, kind of the industry and how welcomed we were by the industry because of the gap that we were feeling. You've got a lot of brands that are popular with teens but are not made for them, are not suitable for them in many respects. So that was also really I guess well received. And the fact that we've got people, we've been on different TV shows like ITV this morning, for example, a lot of different magazines like Sunday Times covered us, again, because that message really resonates. And we now are about to also have a dermatologist that will endorse us and be part of our creative board, which is really exciting because we've had a lot of individual dermatologists recommend our products to individual parents, but we really wanted to have someone on board that could also help us kind of guide that journey going forward.
Yeah, really build on that credibility, because I suppose that's one of the most important things. And looking at the shift in where we're going with AI now and search and discovery of products, how has that impacted what you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you cannot go to any webinar, seminar these days without hearing about AI. I think for us, it's exciting in a way that I guess traditional Google search is obviously what has always been one of the channels for us to reach parents, because we know that kind of that demographic will use Google a lot. I think with AI, it just helps us amplify it, because our product is not, especially as a parent, it's not a product that you would buy without doing any research. So that element of AI and getting that additional almost authority of, the reasons why you should buy it, and these are the sources, etc. That's great for us. However, and every month you hear different things, and you always hear different things from different sources, but at the moment it's really difficult to understand what actually drives AI recommendations and how you can obviously optimize towards them. There are things that are known, the descriptions need to be right, and you need to have product attributes, and the SEO optimization that we've done already really helps with that. But there's also a lot of stuff beyond that, the sources, for example, the PR coverage you have. Apparently, Reddit is a really big source of information. But again, I've seen LLMs sometimes refer multiple times to one single thread from Reddit from 3 years ago, because that's the only source available to them. So I think you always need to take that with a pinch of salt. Reviews apparently also a really big one. So it's something that we really want to encourage people again to leave reviews on our products. But yeah, it is really interesting. I think the main thing for me, and it'll be interesting how it works out, is how do small brands break through the noise? Because I think everything I've mentioned just now, the big brands that we're competing with will have 10 times more of a PR coverage or reviews or user generated content of any kind, or Reddit mentions. And I think you hear, again, I've been to a couple of seminars on this, and some people do say that the algorithm might just change one day, and now they prioritize volume, but one day they might prioritize recency of the content or how genuine the content is. So it's very tricky at the moment. I think for what we're trying to do is optimize our site, optimize information that we've got, learn from LLMs as well. You can literally talk to them and obviously understand how do you assess my site, how do you assess my brand, what can I do. So yeah, it's a really interesting period of time, definitely. But for a brand like us, I think it'll be good in the long term.
Because your demographic really are going to be the first, the earlier ones to adopt the new shopping trends.
Yes and no. I think with teens, the one thing that I find is they very, how to say it, I think they a lot more, they question everything. That's the right way to put it. I think with the older generations, with new kind of, whether it was like Facebook, whether it's now AI, I think people are cautious at first, but then they trust it quite quickly. We all know, a lot of people do get their news from Facebook these days, so it just really shows. When teens, I think, are on completely different scale, I think they actually know not to trust the internet, and I think they a lot smarter when it comes to navigate the information they find online, which is why I would be really interested to see in a couple of years how well they adopt it, because I think they know better than us older generations how to use it with like their head on. However, there's also obviously a lot of people, like young or old, that will trust it kind of blindly.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think it's stuff like, for example, teens moving, like they don't really use Google. They would search on TikTok, for example, like, or they would search on YouTube. I think that is kind of the most interesting, I guess, part of like navigating the internet and like discovering new products for teens. With AI, I really don't know what to expect for now.
That'll be interesting then to see. That was a good alternative view on it.
Yeah.
So what role does like content play in making sure that you guys are showing up in the right places?
So at the moment, the key thing for us is really optimizing all the content that we have on site. So SEO has always been really important for us, because we know that showing up for those organic search terms, skincare for teens, like what's the right moisturizer for a teen girl, etc. Like that is important to us, and we want to be there organically, because I do believe it's more honest to be there rather than just paying for the placement. So we've been doing a lot of work on that, and also blog obviously always helps with that, because it's just powering more and more information. Again, like building our authority as someone that you want to come to and like ask a question. And there are actually quite a lot of blogs that we read and that are ranking quite high already. So I think from our perspective, that content kind of on site is the key element. What really helps us, and it probably helps many small businesses at the moment, is being on Shopify as a platform. They've really adopted AI quickly, and in a way that it really helps you as a merchant on the platform to adopt it and optimize for it. So they constantly, I add like new tools and new functionality for you to be able to maximize the opportunity with, I believe ChatGPT is like their main kind of partnership right now. But so that's been really helpful. And, the information about products and everything, like we know that it will power LLMs, but it will also power Google, and it will power however people want to discover our products. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a lot of admin.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But it's things that we want people to know about products. So it's just like things that you wouldn't necessarily think about, like, oh no, is the product a pump, or what type of bottle, or like what type of fragrance? Because it's all these things that you can't cover all of it in your product description. I mean, you can to a degree. But yeah, it's just making sure that it's all there, because a lot of people have really specific requirements. So you want to make sure that it's all covered.
And do you think that brands can tend to over-rely on like paid channels? What's your split between focusing on organic versus paid?
I would say they probably do, but I would also say I think we're just being forced to in a way. I think building a brand now in 2026 is very different to building a brand even 5 years ago, like in COVID times. I think you used to be able to, set up an Instagram account, post some, cute content, and I think you could build your community a lot more organically. I think we are living very different times now. I think it's all about this quick kind of moment. Someone sees something on like TikTok or Instagram. I think the attention span obviously is decreasing across all demographics, not just teens. I think it's harder to break through the noise, and I think it's especially harder, I guess, catch people's attention on social media in general. I think there's a large proportion of people that move away from it. And there's obviously a large proportion of people that stay on it, but like they don't necessarily trust. 5-6 years ago, you could send a product to influencer and like it would sell out because influencers had that power. But I think these days people are a lot more like, I think they was coming back to more of like a community kind of based reviews and asking friends, asking peers, and also like micro influencers. Like it's really who have genuine communities, and people trust their recommendations. So I think that is changing a lot. So I would say from our perspective, organic is a massive channel for us, because we do have a lot of interest in our brand, and kind of getting that traffic through organic really helps. We're still building out when it comes to the generic searches and kind of the skincare, I guess, part of organic search. But paid is just a must. Like, you have to do it. Unfortunately, what we all find is platforms make it almost harder and harder for you to really like win, because the algorithm changes constantly. You constantly have to adapt. Again, a few years ago, it was okay for you to have 2 pieces of content live for a month. Now you have to have 5 pieces of content every couple of days. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure, I think, on brands to adapt. And I think that kind of the cycles of adaptation are also like shorter and shorter. So yeah, it's a fast-paced
Yeah.
industry for sure.
I mean, we know like those first few seconds of someone landing on your site are so important. Like,
Definitely.
what do you think matters the most in that time?
I think what people often overlook, and we were guilty of that as well, is not making it clear like who you are when they land on your
Yeah.
site. However, I also am a strong believer, let's see, that homepages are, and that might be an unpopular opinion, but I do think homepages these days are slightly overrated compared to like their importance that people put on it. Mainly because if you think about how people get to your site, probably 60% of your traffic is either a collection page, POP, or it will be a PDP directly. Like, that homepage is not as important as 10 years ago. However, it's still important that, if someone does land on your site, they need to know straight away who you are. So it needs to be really clear from everything you do. For us, for example, like, all of our images obviously involve teens. The product is clear. The copy always mentions teen. If you landed on any page on our site, we want you to know that we are a teen brand.
Yeah.
That trust element also really important to us. So, if you land on our homepage, the first thing you will see at the bottom would definitely be the S seen in, because we feel like, all of that industry backing and all of the features that we've had over the last couple of years are important. Again, build that trust with parents, but also with teens. I think these are the kind of titles that resonate with both demographics. Same with reviews. Same with, if our product was featured in Vogue, we would put a sticker on it, just make sure it's really clear. So if you land directly on the PDP, you see that. So there's a lot that you can do. I think it's just making sure that people know who you are from those first few seconds.
And what do you think that people tend to overcomplicate when it comes to CRO? I think there's so many different ways that you can approach CRO, isn't there? And like, we would always tend to start with like auditing, like looking for those low-hanging fruit, those quick wins that you can just go ahead and implement. And sometimes that takes an outsider's view.
Yeah.
Especially when you're so like invested in the site and you're there day in, day out, you don't often see it. But what do you think about that?
I think what you just said is so right. I think the main thing that people do is they think in like brand's terms, not in a customer terms. So, which is why, again, exactly like you said, you sometimes need those fresh eyes, or like you almost need to like take a step back and think, okay, if I was shopping, would this be useful for me? Like, am I finding what I need? As an example, we've got 2 ranges within our cleansers and moisturizers. So we've got a universal range that basically is appropriate for anyone, and we've got our clarifying range. But technically, on paper, as a brand, the only products that actually belong to that range are the cleanser and moisturizer, respectively. However, we also have other products that could sit under clarifying because their purpose is also clarifying, like our tonic. We've got a spot on paste, for example, for spots. And if I was to operate just from like brand's perspective, I'll be like, okay, my clarifying page can only have those 2 products that are, on paper part of that range. But actually, I need to think in a customer's term. Customer doesn't know if the clarifying cleanser or the spot paste are or are not part of the same range. But if they hear clarifying, they will want all the clarifying products. So we need to make sure that they find it easy to find all of those products on the same page. So it's things like that I think are often overlooked because, and you see it across honestly any type of product like fashion and beauty and home, like you'll be like, oh, but this is the range. But just because you call it the range doesn't mean in a customer's head it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they will be like, oh, this is the cushion, but where's the matching frow? And like that's not part of the range. So it's just really think about, okay, if I was a customer and I was looking for this product, I was looking at this page, would it make sense for me to see or not to see those products? And I think probably take that as your starting point. Just really think, how can I give customer what they want?
Yeah, and like using tools like heat mapping and things
Yes,
like that to like analyze where they're coming in, where they're dropping off, why they're dropping
Yeah.
off. Like, I think that gives you like so much clarity and insight into how your customers are actually navigating and
100%.
using the site.
And I think that's the thing, like, just use the data that you have and don't, and you know, sometimes it's small signals, like you don't have to have a lot of traffic to like get those small bits of information that you need to understand what's important to your customers. For us, it was really interesting, actually. We had some feedback from customers about how they were struggling to find something for like their 12-year-old niece. And the thing for us is that we don't recommend any products for, like I said, 13 kind of under. At the same time, some of our products are 100%, you know, suitable. And if you want to give your 12-year-old a cleanser, like there is nothing that would be harmful to them in those products. And we had a lot of kind of back and forth, like how is it best to kind of adjust that journey. And we decided to go for a page for all products for over 15-year-olds, because there are also products that, especially those clarifying ones, that could be slightly harsher for like younger skin. And then we also created a page for under 15s. And that page is honestly one of our top performing pages traffic wise after a couple of months. And we are not pushing any traffic to it like paid wise. It's all organic. But for us, we saw that and we were like, okay, so we are not only solving a problem for our customers, but it also shows us how big probably that selection of customer is. Because if you think about it, the 15 plus teens, they'll probably be shopping more for themselves, but under 15s, they probably have a lot more parents shopping for them. Mm-hmm. So again, obviously for us, that's easy, but it's all about, just doing what you think is right, but then almost validating it with some data and then taking that and amplifying that. So for example, for us, it's all about like, you know, what can we do from like marketing perspective, especially performance wise, if we know that this is where the interest is. So it's fascinating. I love data, and I think any brand should just really always double down of any information you have available. Even if you've got small kind of pool of data, there will always be something that will be valuable to you. Mm-hmm. That's my belief anyway.
And thinking about like the different channels and the marketing split that you've got now, is the majority of your audience and acquisition done through TikTok and some of the newer channels? Like, what else have you explored to kind of get in front of the demographic?
Yeah, so again, really tricky because we essentially are targeting two separate demographics that are also quite limited. So unlike probably 90% of skincare brands or beauty brands that can probably target like a really broad selection of people, for us, our parent ads, you know, it has to be completely separate content, completely separate targeting, completely separate platforms as well. So we use predominantly Meta and Google, obviously, for parents, no surprise. But for teens, you've got an element of definitely content, finding them on the right platform. But also there are a lot of limitations, and rightly so, in terms of how you can target them and what you can target them for. So again, you in the UK, you know, on any platform, you are not allowed to target anyone that's under 18 for any conversion activity, which again is great because I agree with it, and I think we all do. Like, they should be, if they are on social media, hopefully they're there on there for fun. It's not really ethical to like try to get them to buy something. So, you know, in that respect, then you know that your organic presence on those platforms is a lot more important, because you don't want to tell them like, oh, you need to buy this and you need to buy this now. You want to build that relationship with them as a customer, and you want to get across your values and what your product is and who you are as a brand. And you can do that for free. And even if you wanted to pay, you wouldn't be able to anyway. So that is definitely really important. And in terms of the kind of paid element that we do mainly with parents, it's, you know, it's all about, again, just building that trust, and it's just testing different, I guess, elements that work. Because sometimes there's things that you would think like, oh, that's definitely going to work. We've done a couple of ads where we were like, this is amazing. Like, the content was like really nice. Like, I was like, I would buy something from this ad, and you know, that would just not resonate at all. Yeah. And then we would do something completely different. Like, we had quite a simple ad with a review, and we almost felt like, oh, there was maybe a little bit too much going on, because there was like text and image and this and that. And that did really well because it was the review that performed. And I think you just need to learn what works for your customer. But like I mentioned, I mean, with the algorithms constantly changing, it is quite tricky, because just because something works this week, it doesn't mean that it will work next week.
Yeah. So what's the strategy that you've had around TikTok then?
So TikTok, so far, It's quite interesting actually. So it's definitely for us, number one, like an organic channel where, it's specifically really for teens. All content that we do is for teens, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to make our TikTok all about the products and like selling the product. We really want to build that community, and we want teens to like love us as a brand,
Yeah.
rather than just pushing the product into their face every single day. So our strategy for the organic kind of element is very much, follow what's like trending, follow what they want to see, and just be fun and just provide probably that a little bit of that entertainment. However, on like the more of like a sales side, we've explored multiple avenues. We've definitely tried TikTok Shop, and I still stand by the fact that we will try TikTok Shop again. It didn't work for us when we tried, but again, what was really difficult for us, we were trying to target both kind of at the same time, because with TikTok Shop, if you do a live, you can't really do one or the other. You kind of have to fit all the boxes, because you just don't know who's going to join your live, who's going to see your ads, because it all needs to kind of be done on a broad scale. So that probably hasn't worked for us as well. But I do think there are certain platforms and certain channels and certain, I guess, initiatives within those channels that you do have to have a certain budget in mind. You do have to have certain resource in like ready, and for small brands sometimes that's not available. Like you only have a budget of this size. You only have one or two people that can do only so much in their day to day. So our strategy is very much doubling down on what does work, and where we know that acquisition comes and is quite stable and we can scale on it. And then in the meantime, always trying. So we always testing. 1 month it would be Snapchat, and 1 month it would be doing something specific on TikTok or TikTok Shop, and kind of looking also beyond that, and maybe it will be Pinterest next time, or doing something different on Meta. So it changes, but at the moment we're really just trying to work out like what we can find that works, and ideally like fairly low cost, so we can then scale on that. Because that's the tricky part, is just like, where do you put your investment when I think these days it's very difficult to tell, is the algorithm going to deliver what I need?
Yeah. Do you like what type of volume are you putting out across TikTok? Is there like any kind of, well, obviously there'll be a strategy, but is there a clear strategy that you're using, or is it just kind of like, let's get out the content?
No, the content is, and I'm sorry, I'm not the expert, because that sits under our brand marketing team, but we've got like a really strong content plan. We've got an amazing social media manager who, honestly, she like lives and breathes TikTok. She knows exactly what's happening. She's also a really cool person, and bless her, she features in a lot of our videos as well, because she's just someone that like teens would actually aspire to. Like if I was a teen, I would buy whatever she recommends. But our content is very much about like just being genuine, and if there was something, I don't know, trending, or we seeing like, oh, is this sound, or is like this certain format, like she would follow it. So we always there within that time of relevance, I would say, and that changes like every day. Just because something was viral 2 days ago, the sound or like a format of
It could be gone.
Honestly, it's gone. We've had a couple of videos that had hundreds of thousands of views, and some of them actually, and I have to give our social media manager credit. She came up with the concept herself, but it's like it's fresh and it's funny, and it's just relevant, and yeah, like then when you see comments and like people like really engaging with the content, it's great. And like this is what we really want to do as a brand, is like I said before, it's not all about like selling the product. It kind of, you really want to build this relationship with the brand, and really make sure that people know what we're about. And it's product as well, but it's just about like getting kind of teens in that right mindset, and we really want what's best for them.
DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage. So you've kind of mastered DTC locally, and now you're going into expanding internationally. Like, what changes will you need to make to facilitate that? Talking more about like the on-site experience. Obviously, there's all of the operational difficulties that brands face, but from like an on-site perspective, like what's at the forefront of your mind there?
It's really interesting because we've just expanded to Australia, where we just launched with Sephora exclusively as well, and we are looking to expand into quite a few more regions this year as well. We just wanted to make sure that the logistics kind of side of things is in place. And Australia is actually a perfect example of where you really have to think about you can't just launch a website with like AU local and kind of leave it to its own kind of devices. Like, I think again, I would say with Shopify, it's been easier than ever to like localize the site. Like the tools that they give you are, I've worked with like a couple of different platforms in the past, and the amount of developer work that you would need to kind of deliver that level of localization, it's just not comparable to what we can execute with Shopify now. But with Australia, it's even the seasonality element. When we talk to like any holidays, and we will start talking to like summer, for example, and it's as simple as that. Like, we can have the same message for our Australian customers. It's it'll be certain wording, it will be certain like what blogs do we do, and there will be even some cultural elements or things in like that teen culture like over there that would just be different, and we need to adjust to that. It's also like creating content for ads. Like, we want moms that are Australian. Like, you want to hear that accent. Like, you want to know that this is someone from Australia that is recommending those products. So finding the right influencers, finding the right people for our community as well. That's always really important to us. And we always make sure before we entered Australia, we had teams in our community that were from Australia. So again, they could help us, whether it was planning the event that we wanted to make for the launch, or whether it was again like advising us on all sorts of different things that we did in the region. So I would say from site perspective, definitely a content element. And I think eventually we'll probably expand beyond that into, whether we be specific bundles for those customers, or it will be maybe different journeys if we find that that's what they want. But I'm also really open to the idea that just because in the UK, majority of our customers are parents, I don't necessarily feel like it has to be the same in Australia, or it has to be the same in. I think every region is very different. I think in every region, people shop in a very different way. Like,
Yeah.
I come from Poland, and I often, see what people are sharing like on kind of Polish social media accounts that I follow, like my friends, and it is different, and it's quite difficult to even explain sometimes what the differences are. But I think that's why we just need to kind of try to do what we think is right based on our UK experience, but also be quick to adapt when we see that might be shifting towards somewhere new that we didn't know about yet.
Yeah, I think like Shopify in general for like their markets capability has like come on leaps and bounds. Like,
Yeah.
before it was, we think you need an expansion store to really truly manage any territory. Whereas
Yeah.
now, like, the amount of features and functionality that you can have from the single site is just unmatched. Like, it's brilliant, like, to how far you can take it. And I think it allows brands to enter into new territories so much easier than what it perhaps did before. Like, you're able to test things a lot quicker and trial out the markets before, maybe fully going in. But I think it really makes sense about what you said about obviously seasonality, but also not assuming that your demographic and customer is going to be the same. Just
Yeah.
because it's worked in one area doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to translate into
Exactly.
another place. So yeah, I think testing is key. And how do you like prioritize where your time and investment should go when it comes to territories and markets?
Yeah, it's a good question, because we are a small team, and we're trying to wear very many different hats and do many different things in the space of one day. I would definitely say our retail and kind of physical distribution obviously would always be our priority, which was the case for Australia. Like, we knew we were launching with Sephora, and we just wanted to, even though we knew that we couldn't compete with, for example, Sephora online, obviously, like their speed of shipping, etc. Like, our products are shipped from the UK warehouse, so we would always be at slight disadvantage to comparing to Sephora Australia. But we still wanted to make sure that the presence is there. Like, we still want to like run ads, and like making sure that our presence is there physically and also like in the digital space. I think selecting following regions will be very much based on the fact that we already have customers from outside of UK that shop with us, and that's without having localized prices, and without having localized languages, and without really having a proper infrastructure in place to make sure that we can kind of localize like shipping methods or like payment methods, which are also really important, especially in Europe. So that's always promising for us, and that's why like the regions that we will go after next would be definitely regions where we already have customers in, even if it's just a few, but we know that kind of that awareness is there. And I would say obviously English speaking always makes it a bit easier because you can repurpose some of the content that you already have, but it wouldn't stop us. Like if we felt like Germany was the right market, we would go after it if we felt like the opportunity was there. So it's all about, I think for us at the moment, because we're so small, we're so young. Like if you think about it, we only launched just under 3 years ago. It's all about really kind of getting UK to exactly where we want it to be and growing that patiently as well. So not rushing anything, not waiting for this, like crazy viral moment, and hopefully it will happen. But it's all about just doing it in a way that will last. Because I find sometimes with those viral moments, you get a moment, and then where is your brand in 2-3 years if you don't have a plan how to maximize and how to like take it to the next level. So I think for us, UK is a big priority, and obviously that's where majority of our resource will always be at. But trying new regions is super important. I think exactly to what you said earlier about Shopify, the fact that you can launch a new region in a space really of like a couple of hours.
Oh yeah.
If you don't localize language is the only thing I think that would take you time.
And even that we can like get a level of
Absolutely.
good enough automatization
exactly.
to make it.
I would be always like cautious, obviously, because language is so.
It's not native.
Yeah, but I would always like to have like someone's eyes over it. But even without that, like especially like Europe is a perfect example where there's millions of English speakers. You can also, like in majority of browsers now, you can actually translate from English into any language. So again, like you do get that. But I would say because that input from your side or like effort that's involved in like launching a new market is tiny, honestly, like comparing to like what you can gain from it, then it's a no-brainer. Like I think for us, for example, like the regions that we want to go after is, why would we not, if it's going to take us a couple of hours to set up, a French site or a German site, or, like add Euro pricing, like add this. So I think we kind of would always look at what's the potential versus what's the effort. And obviously you can do it on a small scale first, and then like if you see it moving, then double down on it.
You can invest a bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what else are you guys focusing on next then in terms of like growth and optimization?
Yeah, so definitely for us, it's all about performance side of things and really just beating the algorithm, just working out what this algorithm actually wants and what we can give it. And I think the one tricky thing for any brand that is in our kind of startup stage is you will hear a lot of advice from a lot of people that 100% mean well, and that advice comes from like their experience. But I think I would say to anyone that works for or has a small business, take it with a pinch of salt, because you don't have those budgets and you don't have that capacity. And I think you need to always, as an example, like we were at one point, we were under impression that with our budget, we have to have 20 to 30 pieces of content in a week. That just wasn't our reality, because our budget just wasn't big enough to, some of the, like, I would say 80% of those pieces of content didn't get any spend because we weren't spending enough money in the first place. So I think you need to know what's right for you. And the only way you will do it is to understand the algorithm, like really test. And I think with Meta, it's just like, I just don't think it ever ends. Like you always have to test.
Yeah.
So for us, definitely this year, it's all about testing and learning from the main kind of social media platforms. So for us, this would be Meta, TikTok, and Snapchat. But also really looking what is beyond that, because I think I'm actually at the recent DTC Live event, there was this presentation. Someone said, about like the amount of time that people spend on social media versus everywhere else. And that stuck with me so much, because I was like, yes, I actually, like I would go on Instagram maybe for 10 minutes. I would go on TikTok for maybe another 15 minutes. But then I would watch something, and then, I would browse some websites. I would like read a magazine. Like there's so many other places where you spend time.
Yeah.
Not to mention games, which I personally like don't really play many games on my devices, but I can imagine a lot of people do. So it's, I think in terms of advertising and like getting your brand in front of people, there's actually a lot more than social media. And I think, again, that's often overlooked. So from our perspective, it's also looking kind of at those other channels and seeing how we can use them, especially that I think there are channels where the difference between demographics being on those specific channels or platforms like will be very different. So again, it helps us.
I think it's about like being like a little bit more creative now, isn't
Yes,
it?
absolutely,
And I've noticed that a lot of brands are going a little bit further back in terms of like revisiting more traditional methods.
Yes.
Like, you know, focusing on PR, which I think is
Yeah.
something that gets forgotten about, like TV advertising. And,
Yeah.
you know, people think, oh no, I need a huge budget to get that rolling. But I mean, we had a talk at the conference from a founder that had, you know, she'd won a competition, but even still, she was still going to explore it because she saw
Yeah.
like the benefit of it. So I think it is about, like, obviously we're so like wired into thinking like, you know, meta number one, let's plug all our money in there. And yeah, it does get the great return and it is great for acquiring new customers, but it's not the only way of putting yourself in front of people and taking yourself out of that, maybe that marketer's mindset, and kind of stepping back and thinking, right, where is my customer? Like, are they spending all their time on this platform, or, you know, are they at the gym? Is there anything that you could do there? Or are they watching TV all the time? And what time of telly are they watching? So it's all those different things to think about. It's not just
Definitely.
one track minded on only Meta always.
And I think, and again, I'm just speaking from my own experience, but I think with Meta as well, like we will see a massive shift in the coming years. One, because I think there's a fatigue from like customers' perspective. I think, you know, like I said earlier, I do think a lot of more people are moving away from social media. I'm sure you have friends. I have friends that, you know, have deleted all their accounts. And I don't think this is something that is going to become any smarter. I think people, it's going back to your point, like I think from kind of marketing perspective, they should be going to those more traditional ways, because I do think that we as society are, I think that peak of social media where you could sell anyone anything because it came from an influencer, I think that's gone now. I know from my perspective that like now I see something on an influencer, like I just know it's paid for. I just know, you know, they got it from, they constantly going on these trips and they getting everything gifted, and here I am, I have to pay for it. Like, I think people are tired of it. I think with ads, if you do it well, you can still kind of not be annoying, but I think it's going to be harder. So I think you almost will have to look outside of that, because, and you know, AI and like LLMs are probably one good alternative, because this will be a natural place for people to discover things, because they will want to know like, oh, what's the best for me, or etc. But I think those more traditional, even, you know, again, like offline methods, like our marketing team are amazing in like thinking of all sorts of different ways of like, you know, sometimes it's just like a simple sampling activity, but you know, they will be wearing like funny costumes, or you know, doing an event that's like in real life for us. And again, I'm not responsible for us, so our brand marketing gets all the credit, but you know, we've done an event recently for teens in real life, and you know, we had performance from Brit School, alumni of Brit School, and we had different, you know, we had a skincare master classes, and it was all made for teens, but it was all in real life, because yes, they spend a lot of time online, but they still want that kind of human connection. And we found with teens actually, and this was probably the most fascinating for me joining indu, is my perception of teens, because I don't really have teens in my life other than my one cousin that's now 19, so she doesn't really probably count anymore. And was that all they do is, you know, they just online, and they don't really care about the real kind of life, not like we did, you know, back in the day. But the reality is they do, and they really crave that kind of, you know, we do a lot of things for teens that, you know, we would take our community for pizza, and the amount of messages after, they'll be like, oh, like I made friends with this and this person, like we love the event. And it's, they want places where they can just hang out and like meet new people. And unfortunately in their time it is online, and I think we trying to find spaces for them where we as a brand can be present, but they can get what they want out of it as well. So yeah, I think the traditional way, I mean, even the other day, like I got and more brands do it now, I got something in a post from this dog brand, because I buy my dog supplements, and you know, it was like just a quick letter and then a discount code, and you know, again, it cuts through the noise, because how many letters with a discount code do you get these days? Like none. At the same time, I'm not saying I want to get 15 a day, which probably would happen if every single, you know, brand that has my details would be to contact me. But SMS is another really, I think, interesting one as well, that I know a lot of people do. But yeah, it's really interesting times.
And just to kind of like close up, like what's one belief that you held about ecom a few years ago that you no longer agree with?
I have to say it is probably this whole thing of like, oh, it's just so easy to launch a brand, and you know, you will take off in a year. And I think 5 10 years ago, if you launch a brand and you put some money in Meta, and again, I'm not talking from experience, so obviously that might not be, but I've heard stories about how easy it was because the cost was a lot lower. I can even see for us like how the cost and engagement from our ads has changed over the last 3 years. Like it's been a massive difference. And, you know, you used to be able to control a lot more when now it's all down to the algorithm. So it makes your life a little bit more difficult. So I think it's that kind of element of it's not as easy because it's also not as simple. It's not just like, oh, I have amazing product. Like, there you go. It's all about your values, like who you are as a brand. Like you really need to shine across, you know, there's so many brands out there. And I think especially with online kind of shopping, you know, like on TikTok shop, there'll be a new skincare brand every day.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you, for that customer that's constantly online and is constantly served like ads and content and, you know, this product and that product and I need this and I need that, like how do you cut through that noise? And I think from my perspective, it is definitely that brand identity, like who you are as a brand. Like I'm not just selling you this one specific product because I think it's great. It's just, you know, what are we trying to teach you? Like we're trying to get you into routine. We're trying to do something that's like right for you. And I think when that is your message, you can be very successful. I think it's just not as easy to build a brand these days just for like just ads. Like you have to have a lot more to it. And I think that organic presence on social media in like this like non-sellable, like non-selling way is important.
Yeah, I was watching the clip from Dragon's Den with Jenna, the founder of Refy and she was saying that she did like the first 5 million of her business like purely through organic, like with no paid ads.
And I'm not surprised because I have to say, I don't think with Refy I've ever seen an ad, yet I know about her brand. You know, I've got a couple of products on my wish list.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've launched in Sephora now. I went to try the product and I think she's a good example of like when, if you've got like a strong community and you've got, you know, the industry backing and you've got PR, which I agree with you is still really, really important, that's probably the winning success rather than like waiting for, oh, you know, like I need this one viral moment or I need this like quick, like, I don't know, TikTok, like, or whatever it is that you think is going to give you this quick win. I mean, there are brands that, for example, have become really, really successful off TikTok shop. But actually, when you look into the numbers, they didn't make any money. It was purely like a marketing exercise. And like, if they didn't make money, what is the point? Like, yes, you get a little bit of a halo effect, but I think it's just so important to just be genuine and just really stand by your values and like just, your product will sell if it's good and if you as a brand resonate with your customer.
Yeah. And that's it. That's as easy as it is.
I think so. In my opinion, anyway.
Well, thank you so much. That was brilliant.
Thanks so much, Rebecca.
DTC Live On Air is powered by Bright Pill by Sage.